right, good evening, guests. Thank you all for being here. Today is Tuesday, November the 19th. We are streaming our City Council meeting live on our YouTube channel, as well as archiving it for future viewing. Like all of our meetings, we'll start by inviting everyone who would like to participate in the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get into tonight's agenda.
Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Patrick Teveno is absent. Carla Krebs.
Here.
Lucy DeTillo.
Here.
Joshua Schaefer.
Here.
Joel Storm.
Here.
Jim Bartlett.
Here.
And Josh Wilbur.
Here.
Fantastic. Council, have you had an opportunity to review the minutes from the Wednesday, November 6th meeting? If so, we'll entertain a motion to approve minutes.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Council and our guests, it's always an honor each year to present the John Menke Award. We have a presentation for you. This is one of the most special evenings that we do each year. Mr. Crafton, you were a recipient a few years ago. I remember that night very vividly and how special of an evening that was, you know, hearing more about your service. So we honor all the veterans who are here tonight, and we just celebrated Veterans Day last week. So let's begin, if we may, in honoring the 2024 John Menke Award, Mr. Tony Steinhardt, Jr.
Specialist
John Menke exhibited the finest traditions of the United States and the city of Madison in volunteering for military service to our country. He paid the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our country while serving in Baghdad, Iraq, during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Specialist John Menke's sacred memory shall live on through the recognition of the acts of service and sacrifice through others. Whereas Norbert Anthony Tony Steinhardt Jr. was born February 13, 1943, he volunteered to serve in the United States Army after graduation from Madison High School in 1961. Tony served in the U.S. Army and the Indiana National Guard, dedicating himself to 34 years in airborne infantry and mechanized infantry, reaching the distinguished rank of colonel. His military service and journey was bolstered by advanced training at the Indiana Military Academy and the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College. In 1965, Tony married his lovely wife, Phyllis DeVere, and together they raised two sons, Tony, III, and Scott. His family provided the strong foundation that allowed him to dedicate himself fully to his community and country as a servant leader. And in 1974, as captain and company commander in Madison, a devastating tornado, as we saw in the video, ripped through Madison and reduced several homes, including his own, to rubble. Despite this personal loss, Captain Steinhardt organized disaster relief efforts, opening the armory as a shelter, leading search and rescue missions, and coordinating with local law enforcement, all before seeing his own family. In recognition of his extraordinary service during this disaster, Captain Steinhardt was awarded the Indiana Commendation Medal. From 1982 to 1987, Captain Steinhardt's roles expanded as he served as the State Director of Intelligence and later as the Battalion Commander of the 76th Brigade Mechanized Infantry Division. From 88 to 91, he was Commander of Troop Command, overseeing the deployment of 300 plus soldiers as they supported Operation Desert Storm. He served as a member of the Indiana Armory Board, where he secured funding for a new Hilltop Armory in Madison. He completed his tenure retiring as a Commandant of the Indiana Military Academy at the rank of Colonel and was honored by his country with the Legion of Merit Award. Now therefore, Norbert Anthony Tony Steinhardt Jr. epitomizes the spirit of this prestigious award. And on behalf of the City of Madison, it's my honor to present Tony Steinhardt Jr. the 2024 John Menke Award for Military Service.
Goes. Sorry about that. I'm on oxygen, so I'll just a minute. First of all, I accept this award on behalf of all citizen soldiers of the United States. You know, as a soldier, you take 3 oaths, and when you're a citizen soldier, you take an oath to your family, your loved ones, your church, your job, and your community. Second, you support and defend the Constitution of the state of Indiana. And third, you support and defend the Constitution of the United States. So if you're a citizen soldier, you have to live 3 hats. Sometimes it becomes very difficult. On behalf of this award, I've got to thank my family, my wife of 59 years, my 2 sons. They supported me throughout all this, and they suffered. I wasn't there like I should have been, but I had other things to do. So, John, I accept this award for all the citizen soldiers because you were exemplified that particular mission. And John came out of Danville, and I was aware of that unit. Thank you very much.
is hard to hear of all the sacrifice that's made on behalf of our community and country and their families, without just acknowledging all you've done and all our veterans have done. So, thank you, Tony. For the rest of the evening, it's not going to be quite this exciting or emotional, I don't think, unless we have some surprises in our ordinances on stormwater and a general obligation bond. But wow, do we not have a wonderful community and a wonderful community of talented people who are willing to sacrifice for it. Unreal. So we'll move on with the agenda. Thank you all for being here tonight. You're welcome to sit through this. Van, where are you going? Just kidding. Thank you, buddy. Oh, Tony, thank you so much. Congratulations. Well deserved. Yeah, we're going to press on. I'll be right back. We'll go into whether or not there are any reports, recommendations, or other business from standing or select committees.
We have a traffic meeting scheduled for December 19th at 5:30.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I think next is the report of the tree board chair, Glenn Schulte.
Microphone. Thank you.
Okay, try this again. There are a few other tree board members here with me. Karen Skillman, Jeff, all right, you changed seats. Jeff Matheny, Tom Stark, and Melinda Ackery are the other members. 5 of us in total. Our function, according to the City of Madison Tree Board Ordinance, is to present a plan for tree planting, care, and maintenance in the downtown area. Our guidelines stipulate that from east to west of the city and just to the toe of the hill, so not in the uphill area. We make recommendations when requested by council, and we review landscaping plans for downtown development. That is one of our charges. A couple of things that we've done and completed this year. We installed a tree trail down on Vaughn Drive. If you ever walk down there, you may have noticed that some of the trees now have really nice bronze plaques identifying their species and what they're doing for the community. We're going to continue that, add more plaques and add more trails. We've also created a brochure for people to give people more information, show where the trees are. And I believe Hannah is working on that to brand it for the city and get it up on the website. We would like to start a legacy tree program to identify and recognize some of the really large trees that we've got here in town. I don't know if you're aware of it. We have the largest ash tree in the state of Indiana, right over off 2nd Street. We have couple of sycamores down on East Street that are probably over 170 to 180 years old. We have a large and well-established canopy, and we've been a tree city for years now. The Legacy Tree program would give people an opportunity to say, hey, we'd like to recognize this tree because of its size, because it's an unusual kind of tree, because it's got a really cool story behind it. It was planted by so-and-so, or it's in memorial to someone. And we'd like to get a way to acknowledge that officially. After I became chair, I submitted a grant to the IDNR. We were awarded $47,725 to plant 50 trees over the next 2 years. And that pays for planting, all of the equipment, plaques identifying them, the whole 9 yards. And finally, every year we do an Arbor Day tree giveaway. This year we're going to be giving away 400 trees of 4 different species, along with guides on how to plant them properly and take care of them. Do you have any questions for us? For me? Don't hold back.
With the tree project, how far along have you come with the planting of those 50 trees where you are?
When we submitted the grant, prior to submitting the grant, I had a discussion with Bob and Tony Steinhardt III to make sure that it was going to be okay. It's a reimbursement grant. So the city pays, and within 6 to 8 weeks, the state will reimburse us. So in order to apply for the grant, we had to identify 4 areas that hadn't really been hit very well, needed some more canopy cover. We needed to look into the future to see how they were going to go. We were looking at West 3rd Street, the Georgetown District along the Walnut Corridor, along the entrance to the Heritage Trail Park, and Johnson Lake. We also wanted to get one for, get several trees for Springdale Cemetery. Unfortunately, with the IDNR map, it does this crazy little jig around Springdale Cemetery, and we're not allowed to plant trees there from this grant. So we were originally slated to plant 15 trees this fall, but I was unaware of the paperwork that had to go back and forth between the state and the city to get everything finalized. So we've pushed everything back a season. We're going to be starting next spring with planting 15 trees, and I believe those 15 will go up at the Johnson Lake Park.
Is there any plan for, I know that we've had some trees where the root systems have kind of gotten into the sidewalks, or those trees are, either a hazard or they're dying because of that. Is there any kind of thought or program to trying to, kind of replace tree for tree or kind for kind when you can? And
when we're replacing trees in an urban area, we try to go with a 30-20-10 system, which is to try to make sure that we get a wide variety of species. So when we have to take down a tree for, give you an example, in Bicentennial Park, there's one of the large northern catalpas that's hollow on the inside. It's in really bad shape. That's marked to come down. We're going to check into replacing it. Because it has other northern catalpas around it, we want to plant something different, because when you get a clump of the same kinds of trees, it makes them, as a group, more susceptible to disease and pests. So we're trying to make sure that going forward, we have a wide variety everywhere. So it's really on a tree-by-tree basis, and we're working on discussing a way to allow for the public to let us know directly when they think a tree is a problem. I've talked to Bob and Hannah and Mindy about getting a city email address. So if somebody identifies an issue, they can email, and it'll just be like Madison Tree Board, and we can go out and take a look at it.
Yeah, 2 quick follow-up questions on that. Is there any advisement that citizens can take from you guys if they're curious and trying to get a certain kind of tree planted or anything like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of our charges with the ordinance is to develop a recommended tree list and a prohibited tree list to try to avoid problems and keep the variety. Actually, I just emailed that to Hannah today to hopefully get that formatted for the website. But they can contact us at any time, and we'll be happy to. We've had people say, look, I want to plant a tree, I want to plant the right tree, I'll pay for it, can you guys take care of it? No problem. What would you suggest that we plant here? We're happy to talk about stuff like that.
And, well, that's great. My last question too is, you may have, I don't know, I'm not an arborist, so sorry, I'm a neophyte, but you could have an oak, you could have a walnut, or whatever tree is really nice, and that tree has to come down. Have you ever considered, or maybe you do, work with like some local crafters who could, mill that tree down, make it a door, make floor plank, and now you can put it into a historic home, or you could keep it in the town. You know, the tree has to go down, but if the wood can be milled, you still have a little bit of historic value there.
We haven't so far, but that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
It's something that we can look into. Typically, we have a city tree specialist. The city tree specialist for planting and tree removal has a budget of $28,000 a year. Both of those things are pretty outstanding for a city the size of Madison. And removing trees and stumps and things gets expensive. Smaller things are taken care of by Tim Perry. He's the city tree specialist. He's also our liaison between the tree board and the city. Larger trees, generally we contract with, I think it's usually Pike, because he gives us a pretty good price. Even with a pretty good price, you know, some of those big trees cost $1,000, $2,000 to get down safely. What he does with the wood, usually in the contracts up to now, it's been to take down and remove everything from the site, and then we have to contract separately to have the stumps ground out. You know, we could talk to him and ask him what he does with the wood, and you know, whether he sells it for firewood or whether it can be, especially if it's a species like a walnut or something
Right.
like that, it can be used by local craftsmen.
Yeah.
It's a good idea, thanks.
Thank you.
I don't know if your grant has specific guidelines that you have to follow necessarily, but I would encourage you also to maybe touch base with our Parks Director, Scott Klein. We have a couple of new different parks that we're developing over the next few years that could probably use a few
I
trees.
did have a meeting with Scott. I've also written a second grant, but I haven't heard anything back from it.
Okay,
If I do, then we will have trees for some of those parks.
okay, thank you.
Do you have an estimate of how many trees and within the scope are potentially valid for, qualified for this legacy tree program?
In the downtown area, we could probably easily identify 100 trees of significance. Trees that have been around, you know, well over a century, that have seen some amazing changes in this town, as well as some that are, you know, truly unusual species. I mentioned the ash earlier because of the emerald ash borer. We lost a lot of them. Well, on 2nd Street, we have 3 that are fairly large, and like I said, one that's on the big tree registry for the state. So we have a lot to be really proud of and to really kind of highlight, and that's what we're trying to do with the Legacy Tree Program and the plaques. We were thinking that a legacy tree would have a plaque, not like the ones on posts down by Vaughn Drive, because a lot of what we call the tree yards, which is the area between the sidewalk and the curb, a lot of those are pretty narrow. You put a post in there, it's gonna ding somebody's door, and then they're gonna call Bob about their car being scratched, and Bob's gonna call me, and it's gonna be bad. So we're thinking about a small sign that can be put on the tree itself. We found a little spring attachment that'll allow it to grow and can be identified as a legacy tree and why it's that tree, because it's this species, this size, this age, something like that.
Do you have an idea what proportion are on city-owned property versus private?
No.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of trees. That's why we're Tree City USA. On the topic of the grant, I'll just mention that what will come before council, hopefully before the end of the year, is an appropriations ordinance to appropriate the grant funds for the purpose they were intended. And even though the grant has been awarded, thanks to the hard work of Glenn and the tree board, we still have to go through a council process in order to appropriate the money. So we'll do that hopefully by the end of the year. And Glenn's been working well with us and Tony and others on the timing of the plantings and where they're going to go. And I like the energy and the creativity that's coming out of the tree board. And they're all represented here tonight except for Tom Stark.
Tom and Melinda.
Oh, and Melinda. Yeah, I didn't see Melinda either. So we have a five-person tree board. And so thanks for all your work there, and more to come.
We've also reviewed the city tree ordinance and emailed you recommendations for some slight changes a few days ago.
Thank you for that.
Try to save you guys some work.
Any other questions for Glenn or anything else on the matter of trees? Yes, you may.
I just want to say thank you. You did a great job. You actually came to me with Tony and asked me to help apply for it, which of course I couldn't do. But you did great work, and I appreciate that you guys spent all this time volunteering. So it's a fantastic thing that you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Part of the beautiful part of Madison. So thank you for that. All right, moving on, we have a bill on the second reading, ordinance 2024-14. I'll turn it over to Joe.
Yes, this is ordinance number 2024-14, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, repealing or replacing the Madison Code, Chapter 54, Stormwater Regulations, and Chapter 55, Post-Construction Stormwater Regulations. I think we're just at a roll call.
Well, we do discussion on both.
That's right.
And so we would turn over to discussion. I would like, and Dewey here, he's been working with Nicole on this ordinance for quite a while. Steve was here at the last meeting to answer any questions. He's here again tonight. He's our consultant working on this policy, and we'll turn it back over to Dewey. If there's any questions for council, we can specifically answer.
Are there any questions? Okay.
I do have one question. There was, I'm trying to find the page, but there's a requirement regarding anything within 15 feet of the drainage ditch. I'm assuming that's only for the 1 acre and above developments, but who will help identify for a developer whether or not they are within 15 feet of a drainage ditch? I think it was the 15 feet.
Do you have the page number to reference that specific?
I'm looking for it.
Okay.
Here it is, page 23, section 2. I guess it's 25 feet from a bank of a ditch, 15 feet from the center line of any stormwater infrastructure. So really, I guess it'd be the ditch one. It's probably more ambiguous, 25 feet from the bank of any ditch. So who in the city or who will help a developer to determine whether they are within 25 feet of a ditch?
Yeah, the short answer is that the engineer representing the developer would submit those plans with those limits shown. And of course, you all have a consultant that does your plan review for you, so he would also be verifying those dimensions and those setbacks.
And that would be done at the Plan Commission level.
Well, and the stormwater in the planning department.
That's correct.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll do a roll. Oh, is there any questions from the audience on stormwater? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Carla Krebs,
Yes.
Lucy DiTillo,
Yes.
Joshua Schaefer,
Yes.
Joel Storm,
Yes.
Jim Bartlett,
Yes.
and Josh Wilbur.
Yes.
All right, and now we are going to recess the regular scheduled meeting and call to order a public hearing with regard to ordinance number 2024-15, and that is the ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for the purposes of providing funds to pay for various capital projects, incidental expenses in connection therewith, and on account of the issuance of bonds appropriating the proceeds thereof and all matters related thereto. So is there anybody here that has any questions as it relates to the public that would like to speak up at the public hearing?
Is there a clipboard going around, and should we be signing it also?
Yes.
We have not seen it yet.
Oh, yeah, if you don't mind bringing that up to the council. Okay. Seeing nothing from the audience, I think we can I think we can close the public hearing and go back to the regularly scheduled meeting. And we have ordinance number 2024-15, and that is, again, the ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for the purpose of providing funds to pay for various capital projects and incidental expenses in connection therewith, and on account of the issuance of bonds appropriating the funds thereof, and all matters related thereto. Are there any?
I just want to add,
Oh,
Council,
sorry.
this is sponsored by Councilman Tivanaugh, and in the very first sentence of the ordinance, it defines what is the project, and it's various capital projects for the Main Street corridors we have discussed.
Are there any questions or comments from the council as it pertains to this ordinance? Okay, seeing and hearing none, are there any questions or comments from the audience as it pertains to this ordinance? Seeing and hearing none, we will have a roll call vote on ordinance number 2024-15.
Carla Krebs,
Yes.
Lucy DiTillo,
Yes.
Joshua Schaefer,
Yes.
Joel Storm,
Yes.
Jim Bartlett,
Yes.
and Josh Wilburn.
Yes.
Council, thank you. Moving on. We'll now turn the floor over for any public comment. If you do have a comment you'd like to make to the mayor's office or your representative council, please come to the podium. Provide your name and address and your remarks, please. Any public comment? Hearing none. I just have a couple of things relative to the mayor's remarks. I want to just thank everybody in the community, and hopefully you've seen on our social media feed, last week was a special night for the city of Madison, or last Wednesday was a special night for the city of Madison. We traveled to Indianapolis to receive the 2024 Community of the Year Award from the Indiana Chamber of Commerce. Very special evening, and if you go on our website or on our Facebook page, you'll be able to see, I believe, the video from that night. But it's pretty remarkable of just being recognized for all the success of our community in moving the ball down the field relative to placemaking, economic development, public safety, and our quality of life. And you just drive around, and you also see and hear from our members of our tree board or our plan commission or BZA or redevelopment commission or one of 24 committees, and you'll see why Madison is thriving and why we received that recognition. And 2024 has been an excellent year from that perspective, and I believe the investments that we are working on that we have been working on and will be implementing additionally over the next few years are paying big dividends for our community. So I couldn't be more prouder of the city of Madison and all the work that goes into it from so many people, hundreds of people, as well as the council and the mayor's office. My staff is phenomenal, and all the volunteers on our over 24 boards and committees. So I want to accept this award on behalf of the city and on behalf of all of those hundreds of people, each of those hundreds of people who are working so hard for our community. Another special event is happening this Thursday, which is the ribbon cutting for Madison's first public arts sculpture that was engaged by our newly formed Public Arts Commission for the goal of enhancing our gateway. One of the remarks I gave at the chamber dinner that night was the fact that Madison has been Indiana's gateway before Indiana was a state. When Indiana was a territory, Madison adorned the gateway to Indiana, and I think that we have continued to take that responsibility very seriously. And if you look at our gateway and how it's transformed over a very short period of time, it's absolutely beautiful. When you cross that bridge, you know you've entered into someplace special, and we're going to continue to make the right investments across our community that amplify the city of Madison's beauty. But A week ago, we were celebrating ribbon cutting for the Ohio River Legacy Park. This week, it's the ribbon cutting for our Gateway sculpture. And then in about a month, we'll be celebrating the groundbreaking for, the first major multifamily housing development in Madison in probably about 35 or 40 years. So a lot happening there. And then I do want to mention just one housekeeping thing, and that is Friday, we'll be closing Hanover Hill for a few hours to take care of some much needed cleaning of the area, the ditches, the brush, accumulation of some trees and stuff that have been downed, but ask for everybody's patience there. I want to thank Brian Hornsby at IKE, who's been working very collaboratively with the city to make those accommodations for those few hours. I believe it's 8 to 2, so it's around 6 hours there, where for safety purposes, we just need to close the western portion of the hill beyond the IKE entrance. So hopefully that won't create too much inconvenience. We just continue to constantly try to improve and make the right investments in our community. I'll stop there, ask the council if they have anything they'd like to add before we adjourn. And our next meeting will be December the 3rd. We'll celebrate Thanksgiving before we come back. So hope all you turkeys up there have a really good Thanksgiving. I'll turn the floor over to my fellow turkeys.
I'm a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I will second that.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No one wants to stay. We'll say and sign autographs later. Thanks, council. Thanks, everybody, for being here today.